know,
And this isn't
treating
just
it properly.
at Saints from my point of view, because I know we saw it in all the other televised games this weekend, people offside at scrums and no stronger punishment than just a penalty. But it just stood out so much when I was watching this game back, and it was like 10 minutes later, it was the same thing, but right on the goal line. Not that I think it would have made any difference, by the way. I don't think it would have changed the outcome, because Hull did have an extra man in the second half for 10 minutes and did absolutely fuck all, other than spend 20 minutes on their own goal line, pretty much.
Yeah, I had a note about that. I thought Bell was kind of unlucky. I think. I don't think there was any intent in the tackle, but it was poor technique.
He hasn't had a charge, has he? But I thought the sin bin was fair enough.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that they're asked to punish, and he was punished for it. But yeah, you're right. FC just weren't good enough to make anything of it, which fundamentally is the primary difference between these two teams, really. And also, it looks at things like, if we go back to the semi-final before, Wigan were able to punish them, but the week before Salford couldn't punish them, and this week Hull couldn't punish them. So it's that thing about the quality of teams comes out in those kind of circumstances, and unfortunately Hull FC are closer to Salford than Wigan at the moment.
I don't league table places and points wise would say slightly different.
Yeah, well maybe, but I that's just a reflection on how.
But they did only score from a kick and what I think was a forward pass. The only thing that makes me think maybe it wasn't a forward pass is if it flicked off a defender's hand and that changed the trajectory of it. But normally that would make the pass go more backwards than more forwards. So
you think so? Yeah.
Right, next thing to talk about, because a few of the Hull fans have mentioned it, and I'd noted it down as well, but the Lees and Fash incident, genuinely, no elbow at all from what I could see. From what I could see, Fash's head just went straight into Lees' shoulder, and I'd love to throw shade at Matty Lees. I actually thought he had a good game in this game, and I don't think he even Joe Philbinned it with putting his shoulder in. I just think Fash tried to be, fast up out the line, enthusiastic, but just got his head on his shoulder rather than not. Yeah. That's how I saw it anyway.
That's also how I saw it. I didn't see it as foul play. It was kind of from looking at it, it looked like it was kind of the meaty part of the shoulder against the kind of temple, wasn't it? And that's going to hurt, and that's why he went down like he went down.
And that's why we don't allow shoulder charges from defenders running into attacking players. So the conversation could again be about should attacking players' shoulders be allowed to hit defending players' heads, but
I don't think you can stop an attacker turning, because obviously the shoulder is one of those primary methods of kind of taking the bulk of the impact. That's kind of. It's kind of partially the way that they run in. So I think it would be next to impossible to kind of rule that out. I think this is just a case of unfortunate consequences on something that 9 times out of 10, the players come out of it without completely unscathed. Yeah.
As the rules are currently and as the game's played right now, I think it was just an unfortunate situation. Sarah asked a question in hers, actually, that I want to go back to. Why was it a penalty in the build-up to their try on half-time rather than a 6 again? I saw this a couple of times in games this weekend. The other game I definitely saw it happening was the West Wales against Cornwall game on Sunday, where I think a player just deliberately dropped the ball when there was a man offside to get a penalty rather than a 6 again. But I've seen a few times now where what would have been a 6 again has been changed to a penalty because either there's been the ball's then come out after the flop, the ball has then come out, so they can't just do a 6 again because it'd have to be a scrum, but because there was a foul play, it becomes a penalty. And I almost wonder, are players going to start taking it into their own hands of all these like tackle 1-6 agains? And if the first team to start doing it probably would be Saints, wouldn't it? Because let's face it, they are craftier than everyone else because they're better than everyone else.
You mean deliberately knocking the ball on in those tackles? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
hearing the 6 again call, then dropping it.
It's not a bad shout because it is one of those things that, as you rightly said, the referee, he's duty bound to blow the whistle. Then he can't just play on. So.
And then but the thing is, we've been calling for it to be a penalty where the referee can tell it's fucking obvious that they're deliberately giving away a 6 again because they're happy to deal with that extra tackle. So, refs, that's one area where the refs need looking at. Darryl Powell might think they need looking at for everything else that's a problem with his Warrington side, but, that's something that I think the match officials can take a look at with that 6 against situation where if players, we don't want players taking it into their own hands to get out more favourable outcomes for themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but sometimes it's this is the way with laws, isn't it? It takes something to push up against it. We saw it with players in the ruck, didn't we, the other year, where people were just being passed into, and then the law got changed. So yeah, it's not a bad shout, and it wouldn't surprise me if it did start happening.
Next note I've got is Jack Wellesby.
Go on.
So, it's definitely grown into a bit of a Connor-like bellend, as was shown when he scored that try and gave Connor a slap, and then Connor gave him a slap back. I'd have fucking banned both of them, even though it was just a light slap, for being bellends. I'd have given them both a week off after that. But the thing is with Wellesby is he backs up his arrogance or confidence or whatever absolutely completely, because he came up with great plays in both defence and attack. I think the last 5 minutes of that first half, he had a huge moment defensively and a huge moment in attack that changed it from being level or maybe Hull FC in front at half time to being Saints in control. And he's just outstanding as a player, and I really hope that when he plays for England at the end of the year, he does everything great, but doesn't be a bellend, because it'll cheapen supporting him.
Yeah, no, I also noted that his little attempt to wind up Connor. I also noted that, particularly based on what you said last week. But yeah, he has his good moments too. Some very good moments. So it's a shame.
What else have you got?
The defining thing for me was FC's inability to do anything when Saints were down to 12. Saints are an organised team, we know that, but yeah, it to me it defined that the FC they're nowhere near that top 3 group at the moment, and that was just an illustration. Even though Saints were error prone, not particularly organised, but the Lomax and Mason tries were good tries towards the end, so I want to give them credit for that. But I think that was what really gave the contradiction between the two sides. I think as soon as they went back to 13, it's almost like when the players were in the sin bin, when Bell was in the sin bin or something. I don't know, but there must have been some sort of messages go out, because then when he came back on and Saints were fully up to strength again, they just started attacking that right hand side, and Hurrell started making things happen. And with Lomax and Makinson around that, even a not fit Johnny Lomax, I thought playing hurt, he was hugely impressive in this game. I think better than he was in the Wigan game. That off the back of what you said about the 10 minutes where Hull didn't do anything, there was then 10 or 15 minutes where Saints finished the game off, and exactly, yeah,
and that was emphasised the difference too. On the Lomax thing, he's going to need to keep going for Saints this season. Clearly, from an England point of view, I just wish he was getting fixed up now rather than the inevitable, which will be an operation after the grand final, ruling him out of the World Cup.
Honestly, I wondered after the semi-final whether they might say let's get it sorted and let's have him back, kind of firing come kind of August, September. But
And if Dodd wasn't out already, I think they might have done that.
maybe that's true. But yeah. Even looking a bit error prone and a bit kind of inconsistent, Saints were comfortable beats over FC.
Yeah, there were some okay performances for Hull in the pack. Brown, Mao, Taylor, but they still need to figure things out at halfback, don't they? The big name signings are Reynolds for last year, Gale for this year. Neither of them are anywhere near consistent enough at the moment. Gale wasn't picked for this side because he's not playing well. A player was picked out of position ahead of him. Reynolds has had that happen to him recently too, and I can't say that it won't swap around this week and it's Reynolds that's dropped and Gale that comes in and Lovadua still gets a go out of position and Ben McNamara's still hurt. So if he was fit, they'd maybe go with what has been the most consistent half-back pairing for them this year when they played, which was McNamara and Lovadua.
Which is, it's a bit damning on their recruitment, isn't it, to say the least. But
yeah. Shall we move on to the news stories out of this game?
Yes.
Do you want to take us through the first one?
So, Hull FC centre Connor Wynne signed a contract extension to the end of next season, with the club holding an option for a further 12 months.
Interesting that he's getting called a centre now, isn't it? He's obviously played some decent stuff and scored some good tries from that position recently. EFC got in touch. Wolf linked with Bulldogs is what he wanted to talk about. So EFC 78JU said Christian Wolf and Steve Price are the two coaching contenders that are being targeted by NRL side Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs as they have parted ways with Trent Barrett. Wolf's contract with St Helens is due to expire after the end of this season, and Steve Price has recently joined Cronulla Sharks after being in England for 3 years. So yeah, the Wolf speculation is just not going to stop, is it? There's no way that he's not earned himself a head coach gig in the NRL with how he's performed at St Helens.
No, you'd think that there'd be
they'd be salivating over that defence and ability to give away penalties. Sorry, yeah. No, I think it's something that Saints had to get used to with his predecessor, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did go. I think he'd be a great appointment for a low-ranked NRL side. I think he can, because he can turn the defence around at those sides, and then with any setup in the NRL, there are one or two gems that they can pick out and find that can do what Wellesby and Dodd have done and make that side exciting whilst it has a solid defensive foundation.
Yeah, I'd definitely be thinking Wolf rather than Price. I would think that'd be much more likely.
You're certainly going from one end of the chin spectrum to the other, aren't you? You've got fucking King Jaw versus disappearing chin. Anyway,
yes, it's that's not it's not a fair fight.
Saturday afternoon, we were treated to a third televised game this week. It was Catalans versus Warrington. It was 6-6 at half time, but it did not finish so close, with Catalans running out 40 points to 8 winners. 9,307 were their credit to Warrington. Good travelling support in that figure. Liam Moore was the referee. In the team stats, Catalans made over 400 more metres than Warrington, all because of the referee, no doubt. Keeping Wire to under 1,000 metres as well, all because of the referee, no doubt. They also had 0.8% better average gain, but Wire did make one more break and also had a 7% better team tackle success rate, actually, with the Dragons at a lowly 87%. That's not great. Catalans made 4 more errors, but Wire conceded 5 more penalties. So, yeah.
Swings and roundabouts. For Catalan, Sam Cassiano had a try assist, 5 tackle busts, 163 metres, 2 clean breaks and 3 offloads. Just a couple of things
Big
there.
fucking audition to be at Warrington next year, wasn't it?
Certainly was. Fujiyaha had a crucial try, record-breaking try assist and 145 metres. Tom Davies with a try and 142 metres. And Julian Bousquet, the beast himself, with a try and 118 metres. For Warrington, Ollie Holmes had 44 tackles. Conor Wrench had a try, 145 metres and 2 clean breaks. Josh Thulis with 5 tackle busts and 134 metres.